back to Starships and Steel, the blog and YouTube channel offering you a fresh perspective on the worlds of science fiction and fantasy miniature gaming. I'm sure you've noticed that so far this blog, although I've built it as science fiction and fantasy, has been a lot more Steel than Starship. Well, that's because there's a lot of new Conan stuff on the market right now. From the board game, the new Modifius RPG coming out. I'm a big Conan fan, so I'm kind of focusing on that right now, but I will get back to science fiction eventually, to spaceships and ground combat in 15mm and whatever scale the spaceships are at, all over the place because they're spaceships and they're huge and space is big, but talk about that later. So today, this is going to be another of the video series in building the props and sets for the Tomb of Fahim Khan, the Conan starter adventure I put together for my players. We started the first session a couple days ago. Everyone had a really good time. They got in pretty deep, and we still have a few little more to do, but they've seen the tomb entrance, which is what we're going to do today. We're going to build that, and you guys can watch and hopefully get some ideas, advice. But before we do that, I did not forget you guys. Tonight we're drinking Hazelburn. This was a scotch I picked up for a scotch tasting me and my friends were having. It was picked because the back tells me it's not peated at all, and I don't like the peat taste. So, therefore, I picked this one up. Our first thoughts of this one were it was pretty smooth, a little bit flowery. And then, at the end, the very end, there was just this hint of smoke that caught us all completely by surprise. It was very nice. So, this is a nice scotch. I highly recommend it. Not the cheapest on the market, not the most expensive by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm going to take my scotch, I'm going to go up to the table, and we're going to build this tomb entrance. See you guys there. Okay, so the first thing we're going to use is a piece of MDF. We're just going to cut it out a random shape, and then we're going to take a razor knife, a sharp razor knife, and just go around the edges and bevel it off so that it has a nice smooth transition from the table up into the tomb area. And remember, these knives are sharp. This material isn't super easy to cut through, so be very careful. If you slip, you'll cut yourself. Make sure it's sharp. So, just let me there, take my pliers and get a new blade out. That's why I like these. They're easy to sharpen up. Just send out the blade a little bit, pop it off with a pair of pliers, and away you go again. Just keep working that until you got it relatively beveled nicely. You know, while we're waiting, we can partake in some more of my lovely scotch. Alright, let's get that kind of carved down. Looking pretty good now. This makes a bit of a mess, but it is what it is. Now I'll just get some sandpaper and go over this, kind of take off the edges a little bit. This doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to go over it later with glue and sand flocking, that kind of thing. So just get it roughly done. Okay, so I just traced out my outline on some styrofoam, and then I kind of drew where I wanted the tomb to be. Basic idea. This gave me an idea of the size of the pieces I could use. This wasn't a perfect idea, but it worked okay. If you have a hot wire cutter, this is a good place to use it. That's pretty high on my build list right now. But I got through it with a knife. Just keep going through there. This part takes a while, but you know, bear with it. Got a lot of foam to cut out, a lot of pieces to make. Let's do another one there. All right, that's pretty good. Again, I just cut a bunch of these off, whatever random shape I wanted. Took the knife in, made them round, beveled them off a little bit, put some texture in them. Repeated that ad nauseum until I had the shapes I wanted. You know, I just cut some grooves in them, some interesting shapes that I figured when I painted it would show up in the paint job pretty good. Just kept on going. This part took a little while, as you can tell, because I'm kind of trying to fill time here while I talk. Maybe I'll cut this part out, and you guys won't have to watch the entire thing if you don't want to. Alright, I know I'm going to need some space, so scotch time. What is a tasty, tasty beverage. Yeah, maybe you have a piece pointing upwards so it's not all flat in the same kind of flat shape. Be layered rocks, which is okay looking, but a little bit of variation is always good. Just keep going. Eventually you'll have enough pieces that it looks okay to you. Of course, whatever size, shape you want to build it, that's completely cool. This is just my take on this idea. Alright. One of those upright pieces, I think, here. Or maybe just a rock on the side. Just a rock on the side. At the end of the day, I wanted a pretty cool looking piece because it's going to be the centerpiece of this encounter on the surface before they go into the dungeon, and I wanted it to be pretty memorable for them. So here I'm just building some pillars because I wanted it to be man-made, not natural. I wanted this cave to not be a natural cave. I wanted it to be very, very obviously man-made. So I built, some pillars, 2 uprights, and then a cross piece, and then nicked them up, made them look old. Used the old score, and then use a pen to open up the holes that I think I first saw on Black Magic Craft. That guy's channel is awesome, by the way. I would highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out. He does some really cool stuff. I'll put a link in my show notes. That's right, my show notes. That's cool, huh? But I'll put a link down there for you guys. You guys can check him out if you haven't done so before. Highly recommend you subscribe to his channel. I'm just kind of opening up my tomb area so I can have a black void. Otherwise it doesn't go very deep. That's no fun. It's supposed to simulate a shaft leading into the earth that the players will venture into and hopefully find a tomb of some interest to them. Kill some bad guys. Get out with some treasure, hopefully. I'm just kind of sorting stuff out, see how it looks. It's pretty random as I go. It doesn't really matter. See my giant pile of messy foam. It's another reason the hot foam cutter would be good. You'd have less of these tiny little pieces. And these are kind of staticky, so they make a bit of a mess. And you see me just randomly trying pieces and shaping them and cutting them and until they're the right size. So I have a decent mountain looking thing. A couple more pieces going on there. When we get it to the point where we're pretty happy and we can start gluing it all down. And moving on to the next painting phase. I was overall pretty happy with this piece when I was done. It took a little bit of time. Nothing hugely exciting though, like it was just cutting and gluing and shaping and cutting and gluing and shaping. Well, not gluing, but cutting and shaping and cutting and shaping and then gluing. So you see me with a hot glue gun here, just putting that down and glue my pieces together, figuring out how they're going to fit, and then going from there. Looking pretty good. Starting to look like a mountainous cave, which is the goal. A little hole in the back there I think I gotta fill up still. Otherwise you have an escape shaft, a light shaft into the back, which we don't want. We want it to be dark. Mysterious and dark. There we go, filling that hole up there. Glue that down on top. And now the little shaft of light is gone. That'll be nice and dark inside. You want to, maybe I won't have that over the top. I'll have it broken and falling down. That's a good idea. I'll glue those on, the uprights, the old stone entrance. Maybe broken like that. That might look okay. I think I'm going to glue that on later. prime it all up first and then glue it on after so I can paint it easier. Just put some glue on the bottom, make sure those don't move. Okay, then we'll prime it up in black. Book, there we go. That was fast, eh? Let's use the brush, paint that up with some black paint. We'll get this and glue that on so it's a fallen down piece. A little bit of runic stuff, not runic, runes. We'll get the owner's glue and we'll just spread that all over the place. This is going to be used to put our sand on, give it some texture. Because right now it's pretty boring. I know you're wondering, why did I prime it before I put on the sand? You're going to have to paint over the sand anyways. Yes, I will. But the thing that drives me insane is if you don't prime it first and you get the sand on there, it's hard to get all of the stuff under the sand painted. I always have little holes, little white holes left that I have to go back over a million times and try and paint. It drives me crazy. So if I paint it black first, the amount of time it takes me to go back over and paint it again is pretty minimal, and it kills that headache for me, which makes me a happy camper. So that's just a thing I do because it's good for me. Put that down and let that, put the sand away first because otherwise you'll run out of it. There we go. Look, let that dry a little bit. We'll take the 50-50 stuff. This is 50-50 glue and water. Put that over the sand again. And we'll just spread that out. This will act as an anchor, a scenic cement, if you will, to hold that sand down so it never comes off again. Alright, get that all covered up. You'll notice I didn't cover the entire base. I didn't feel like it. Maybe I should have, but a little bit of texture on the base isn't a bad thing, or difference in texture on the base isn't a bad thing. Just go over it till you're happy, and then let that dry off. There we go, mostly dry. Get some black paint and just cover that up again. I did this with a watered down black just to make sure I got all the sand covered up so there wasn't sand color. And this is how I would, if I didn't prime it, I would still do this. It would kind of flow between the sand grains, but I still find it's an imperfect thing, so this is the easier way to do it as far as I'm concerned. A little bit more time, but not very much. This paint dries pretty fast. Okay, so once we get that black paint on, we'll just put it aside for a few more minutes and let her dry up again. And here we go. Get some gray. I dry brushed it with the gray. I didn't cover the whole thing in gray. I wanted some black underneath it, so I had probably 3 colors when I'm done. A gray dry brush, and then a white, not a white, a lighter gray on top of that, and then the black underneath it. You could go with a 4th layer of white, I guess, and highlight a few areas. I chose not to do that. Just keep going over that. Eventually you'll get her done. It's a pretty big piece, so it takes some time, but it's worth it. This was the first game I ever played with these players. I haven't really actually DM'd a game in a long time, since I was probably in my my teen years, I suspect, before I stopped playing D&D back in the day. I switched over to war games, but with the advent of this new Conan game, I was pretty psyched to give it a shot. So I got involved in a little Pathfinder game to get my feet wet again as a player, and then started this with some new guys. So they hadn't played with me before. Didn't really know what I'd have for. There's some more scotch there for you. They didn't really know what I'd have on the table. They knew I was going to use miniatures. They didn't know to the extent of what of the terrain I was going to use. So they were all pretty. They thought it was pretty cool. Thought they added a lot to the game, which I'm sure you guys all know. But it's new for them, so that was good. And I got them with the light gray and just getting in there and getting some light gray on there to make it look stony textured. It's looking pretty good so far. Some Go on here, some brown paint, just put that around, because the base is going to be earth colored. Otherwise, don't want to worry about grass, because if you worry about grass, then you can't use it anywhere else. Like you can't use it in a snow area, or you can't use it in places where it's completely dirty. Having dirt around a rock outcropping is more common than having grass around a rock outcropping in the desert. So this will fit in more places better. So we went this way. I think I went back over with a black wash here. I think that was a mistake. It didn't really add anything. It just muted all my colors, and I went back over them again to get them back. It was an idea. I don't think it did very much, so not sure I'd recommend that step. But oh, here's the wash. Yeah, so this didn't work out that good, but I did it. Is what it is. Learn from your mistakes. Put that aside and let all that stuff dry again. Then we'll move into the next area of things. All right. I just decided not to bother with the brush this time. I went in with a sponge instead. So I sponge painted the rest of this, and then I went back with the brown and gave that a second coat to give it more coverage. And while that's drying, I think I went back in with a sponge, maybe did some more. Decided I wasn't happy with anything. There we go. Oh, I dry brushed first. There we go with the sponge. There I decided the dry brush wasn't the way to go. It's going to take too long. Let me go with the sponge. And this made it pretty fast. There with the lighter color, add some more interesting texture. So I don't know, maybe the wash actually helped it in the end, but in the end I'm not unhappy with it, so I guess it all worked out in the end. So I just take some light brown and go back over the sand area and dry brush that. A bit more interesting look to it. It's all about bringing out that texture, right? Those details, even if they're kind of random looking details, they're still details that the eye picks up and everyone thinks makes them look cooler. Just keep going until you're happy with it. I think I went back in over the areas that didn't dry brush and added some brown to those too, just because they're a different texture, so I want them to stand out a bit. I think I overestimated my narration time. I'm almost out of scotch. Let's go get some more here. And just keep working at it until your brown's covered well enough and you don't see any black through it again anymore. And keep painting. Good thing I sped this up, hey? Imagine how long this would take to go through if we watched it in real time. Probably a couple, 3-4 hours anyways. But due to modern cinema, you get that down to like 25 minutes. And then probably not even that, maybe like 20 minutes. I don't know. Well, anyways, we got the paint on there now. Just add some more details. Just got some grass for diorama. It might be one of the scenic companies, I'm not sure. I don't have the top anymore, but nice long grass. So I just pulled a segment out, and then apparently, I'm not sure if I did it off camera or not, but I put a drop of glue in the middle of it. Oh, here we go. Put a drop of hot glue in the middle of it just to hold all the pieces of grass together. And then once that was done, It's kind of a pain in the ass, but once that was done, I cut it in half, which we'll see in a second here. And that gave me two pieces of grass tufts to stick out. To add a little bit more interesting things to it. Something a little bit cooler than just a rock face. And again, this wouldn't really matter. If you use it in grasslands, having some yellow grass there wouldn't be a big deal. Having in the desert, having a couple stalks of grass, not a big deal. Wintry terrain, again, not a big deal. Now if you use bright green, that might be a bigger deal. But yellow happens everywhere. I'll turn that down so it's not quite so tall. There, a little piece of grass to stick in your terrain piece. Another one down because I have two, so they're about the same size. Not quite happy with the length of that one still, so we'll cut more off. There we go. And we'll just get the hot glue gun out and put a dab of hot glue where I want them, and then stick them in there. You could at this point in time paint that hot glue. I chose not to. It's pretty clear, it doesn't really stand out very much, so. Looks alright as is. And then we're almost finished. Almost ready for the table. Almost ready for the adventure. Hopefully you guys managed to stick with this the whole time and got some ideas, maybe some inspiration from this piece. I'll just kind of hold it up for you guys. You guys take a look at it. And then I'll show you how it looked during the adventure, more or less. There's the tomb entrance. It's looking pretty cool, I think. Here we are, adventures with our horses. And I had a cave lion attack them in the adventure, but I thought I'd use a pre-painted figure here, a little stone giant. Well, maybe not little because he's a giant, but you know, little for miniature. So there's the piece and some dice being rolled. A marker stone showing it's a tomb. Some of DM Scotty's tissue paper rocks. I like those, they're pretty cool. So if you found this interesting, you know, feel free to give me a like, and if you want to see more, click subscribe, and we will see you in the next installment of the Tomb of Fahim Khan. Thanks for watching.